Okay. Great. Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the review of Falcon Sprint 1, which was a 3-week sprint. And I think we're slightly improving with respect to our planning, but I think we still have some improvements to do. We originally planned 226 story points, but ultimately accepted about 35 or 40% more work than we originally planned. And we knew there was a risk. We've completed 188 points. So actually our original estimate with respect to how much we signed off versus how much we've burned is pretty close. It just happens to be a large chunk of different work. That's the only problem we need to work on still. In terms of the numbers, this is what it looks like. As you can see, the trend of percent complete has indeed improved. We're at 62% now. The sprint burndown, we are also getting better about reporting our burndown rates. And if you were to actually sum up all of the upticks, which represents the burn up, then you will see that actually we would have kept with the burn down chart fairly well if we didn't have the upticks. All right, so now let's dive into the various areas of accomplishments throughout the sprint, and I'm going to hand this over to David to start.
Where's he?
Oh, that's right. I didn't see him online. Okay, so maybe Brian and I can jointly cover some of these areas. Well, first of all, Luca and Matteo helped integrate the various social networking channels together with our Twitter feed. So as we post videos to YouTube, this information gets automatically reflected. Also, David wrote a blog summarizing the results of our code review pilot and so announcing our future plans on extending it to the public. And Brian, as part of this effort, completed actually all of the 3 tasks for the submitter plugin. And Brian, I don't know if you want to toss in a few words here.
There's more later on that.
Okay, great.
There's also a wiki page now that's available that describes the code review or module owner program.
Perfect. So you'll talk about it later, right? Okay. So also, you know, we've started labeling Jira tickets as starters, but we also identified some top bothersome or nuisance bugs as a bug bounty. Bugs, and David's going to be announcing essentially a bug bounty where that will involve a prize for the community members who pick up these bugs and squish them. And there's also a blog post written regarding the ONOS community enhancements that we plan for 2016 and what we expect to see. So hopefully I did it justice. Sorry, David, if you're cringing after watching this later.
Hey, I just joined. Sorry, I guess I was using the wrong link.
Okay, good. Okay, so do you want to add anything before we move on?
I didn't even hear. I was having technical problems getting in.
Okay, so why don't you just take this? Anyway, it might be a repeat, but it'll probably be better to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Sorry for anybody if this is a repeat. Just quickly, though, thank you to Luca and Matteo. We've now integrated some various channels that we were using to have community news sent out on, and so now it's possible to just get everything in one place. If you sign up on our Twitter account, you'll get everything, whereas in the past you would have to get information from 3 or 4 different sources. So I think that's going to be a big help for people who want to get ONOS information. During the sprint, we also shared the results of the code reviewer pilot project, which was successful, and I just posted and shared about it in the mailing list, a document that talks about what the module owner program is, how code reviewer processes are handled, and if you want to find out more information, check the wiki, and that will be expanding over time. Also, in terms of making it easier for people to contribute, we are looking at creating a bug bounty program as a way to build out our coding contribution pathway. We had a first step for people with our starter bugs who showed up who wanted to find out what they can do, and this would be that next step. Once somebody has done 1 or 2 starter bugs, this is a more in-depth, meaty project, and I think the goal would be to have people mature over time so they can take on bigger and bigger, more substantial projects for us, projects that we want to get done but just don't have the bandwidth for. So this is a step in that direction. And then lastly, I shared a vision for the ONOS community in 2016, and I'd love people's feedback. Is this the right set of things for us to be focused on? Is this what the community needs? Is this the way to really grow it and make it more effective? That post, again, looking for any sort of feedback, comments on that. Feel free to respond to me on the list. I posted it to ONOS Discuss, or reach out to me directly. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, David. All right. For the platform, there was really just one major item, and I'm going to let Andrea speak to that.
Okay. Yes. So we refactored the whole structure of the drivers folder, because for the future, especially, we wanted a better separation from base default drivers that we have right now, like the OpenFlow drivers, and the one that we already have in place, like OVS, and the family device specific drivers. Right now, you can see the structure. We have like some Siena, some Fujitsu, and some other protocols that are not default. We wanted to do this in order to be able to dynamically load drivers on as needed basis. So like my application needs the netconf driver. It can specify in his app.xml, sorry for the error. In the app.xml file, you can specify apps and the dependency on a specific driver, because right now the drivers each driver is an application. For back compatibility, we left the default drivers. The one that you see, the folder is named default, but the package is ONOS drivers. So no application should have right now any problems. In the future, we will change that to ONOS default drivers, but we will announce that and make the change in another time. Right now, this is like the skeleton for building up a better driver subsystem in the future. Yes.
I want the Fuji driver that relies on netconf. I load them both.
Yes.
It doesn't automatically.
Or in the Fujitsu driver, you can specify a dependency on the netconf driver. So when you load the Fujitsu driver, it automatically loads also the netconf driver.
That should happen.
Yes. You can do both. You can specify a dependency on 2 drivers in your application, or you can specify a dependency on 1 driver if that driver specifies a dependency on another one. They are apps in ONOS, and like as app can depend on another app, you can depend on more drivers, and a driver can depend on another driver.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Also, Jen has done some really great work on cleaning up the various platform-related both build and runtime artifacts and dependencies. Did you want to speak to that, Jen, while you're there?
Yes, I'm here. So now we can use the Maven as the latest version, like a 3.3.9. So as I already announced before, and also we can use the latest Karab, like the 3.0.5. We have some issues on my way to Karab 4 currently, so I think we are now just stay in 3.0.5 is okay. And also I bump up some other underlying libraries like Grab and some other like dependencies and so on. That's it.
Yeah, and as part of this work, not only it bumped up the versions, but also cleaned up some stale dependencies and consolidated some dependencies. For example, we had dependencies throughout the code on a couple of different versions of Jackson, for example, and this work has consolidated that.
Yes.
So thanks again, Jen, for doing that. Okay, on a core side, I'm going to let Madan do the update.
Sure. So, as part of the dynamic clustering work,
something that we introduced in this sprint is the notion of a cluster metadata provider. So this basically uses the provider pattern for essentially giving access to cluster metadata as well as getting notifying the core when cluster metadata changes. Previously, we were using the store pattern for this, but it turns out supplying a custom implementation of that required changes to code to disable the existing store and so on. But with this approach, you can dynamically add like n number of providers, and then we have the ability to at runtime select the right provider depending on the URI for the cluster metadata. So this should help if someone wants to write a provider that is that relies on etcd or Zookeeper for storing cluster metadata. This is the right approach for that. The other piece of work that we did was basically build a custom transport framework that will be used for all the copycat and draft related communication. So this uses the latest copycat API for the local transport protocol. So this is something that is again part of the dynamic clustering work, but that was done in this sprint. In addition to that, there are a lot of enhancements that are made and also in progress right now for improving various aspects of the primitives. This includes simplifying the interfaces as well as making it easy to compose interfaces and add features to existing maps, for example. Finally, something that Aaron worked on was, so we identified an issue with cluster stability in LXC and Docker based environments. So what happens is that whenever you take a node down, it basically unravels the whole cluster. This was observed in Linux containers as well as Docker. So we identified the root cause to how the low-level TCP connections were being set up. And Aaron identified the issue and then added a fix for this in master. So this should help anyone who is using Linux containers or Docker. This should help the stability in those environments. So those are the things that we did on the course side.
I want to say LXC is not the same as Linux containers. Just the LXC uses Linux containers, but
sure.
is a one utility that implements containers.
Great.
Same thing potentially show up in other container systems like Mini.
Okay.
Thanks, Madan. This is great. So it looks like we're on really good track to putting a bow on dynamic clustering as well too.
Yeah. There's still work to be done, but I think we are.
I completely understand. Yes, but this is great progress. Andrea, can I put you back on the spot here with respect to this addition?
Yes, this is a fairly simple heads up to everybody that right now through a JSON configuration file that you do a post to ONOS through the REST API, you can pass not only the driver to the for a specific device, but you can also specify the type, the manufacturer, the hardware version, and the software version, and this will go and override whatever the provider notifies the ONOS core about the device. This was made mainly because some of the device that some of the projects for ONS will support, it was fairly complicated to get the information about these devices, so injecting them was a better option, and this was a fairly simple change.
Great, thank you. All right, on a southbound, I think this will be between you, Andrea, and Aaron, right?
Yes, right on the three first bullets. Just a heads up to everybody, we added a modification to the netconf subsystem, and right now, since a lot of partners ask for this support, we're currently able to read the session from the device, the input stream from the session to the device in order to receive alarms and notification from the device, and not only reply to requests. This was made through some threads and some the usage of futures. Regarding REST, we have right now a new southbound device configuration protocol implemented by REST. This was made for the eCode project because one of the Sienna device could only be configured through REST calls. So we made a provider for that, and that is able to issue simple REST post, get, delete, and put operations through the controller. And it's based on a non-persistent connection. The other thing that we made is multiple inheritance between drivers. This was made before the change in the driver subfolder, and but it's still in place. And actually, right now, every driver can extend multiple drivers, not only one as was before. So the list of drivers in the extend parameter is treated as a list and not as a single value.
How's that implemented?
It get merged. So we, in this example, if both default and OVS have a behavior,
yeah,
the last one wins. So the implementation of a specific behavior in OVS wins over the implementation of the specific behavior in the default one. So the order that you put them in matters.
Okay, that might lead to some problems, but okay.
Yeah, it's well, yeah. We for the most part try to treat it as mix-ins, right? Yeah, you could usually circumnavigate around problems, but you're right that if things are not, if you have configuration does not follow best practices, then you could be exposed to some interesting inheritance quirks, just like with multiple inheritance. Yeah. All right. And also, anybody has any details on the OF1 flow removed messages?
You did that.
Yeah, this was just a bug that we discovered. It was a null pointer exception that was getting suppressed. Or an illegal state exception that was getting suppressed. We have a fix in master now.
Okay, well that's always good. All right, on the northbound side, I presume this show can give an update on this?
The things completed in this sprint is support for continuous type resource. The continuous type resource is the typical example is the bandwidth on the port of a device. So the basic functionality is already implemented and get merged into the master, but I think we may need some iteration to the API get more developer friendly. That will be may be done in the next sprint. Thanks.
Okay. There were also some incremental enhancements to the intent subsystem, right? Code consolidation and bug fixes as well, right?
Improvements. Yeah, there were also some incremental improvements to the intent subsystem.
Yeah, great. Okay, Simon and Jen, I presume you guys will...
So for the GUI, there were some framework enhancements and view-specific enhancements. As you can see, they're listed here. The table model annotations, we had a specific use case, which was to, when you have an empty table, we wanted to be able to customize what was shown. For example, when you select a 1.0 OpenFlow device, if you're looking at a meters table, it actually tells you that meters are not supported, not just that there are no meters found. So that was there, but we actually made it as a generic annotations framework. We added some additional sorting on columns, so we now sort by 2 columns, so that, for example, in the applications view, we want the column of the second group to be sorted alphabetically. You'll see that in a bit. So additional keystrokes were made available for the key bindings. Jean added a new meter table view, and we cleaned up some formatting, and then demonstrated later on. You'll see the enhancements to the application view, where we have more information. Items are selectable. We have a details panel. Also, now to uninstall, enable, or disable an app, you actually get a confirmation dialog. And for the drivers, we give you a very prominent warning saying that you will run into trouble if you disable or uninstall them. But we don't actually prevent you from doing so. And then a couple of bug fixes.
Perfect. Thanks, Simon. All right, on the QA side, is it going to be John or Subin?
It will be me. Would you mind refresh the page, please?
Yes, not at all. Let me.
So this is a laundry list of things we did, including the interns from UOP from the previous term. They wrapped up last week, and also some works from the current UOP intern. On the test environment and community support side, we brought up the second production test cluster, so we can share the loads at 90 tests. And we configured Jenkins machine, both on the developer's Jenkins machine and the QA Jenkins machine, to track configuration history. So you can go back to history and see what been changed, and you can always reverse back to the previous configurations. We verify the Karaf and Maven changes, and we update some documents, including system test documents, and also some work in the maybe 2 sprints ago on SSL open flow configuration. We put up a document on how to configure that. And there are a couple of work in progress items, including working with the community contribution from Criterion and Huawei. Those are the tests that are not wrapped up, are still in work in progress. And there's one item we plan to do by investigating Docker as a test environment that is still work in progress. Then we add a bunch of new test suites. We refactored in 10 functionality tests. We fixed the topology scaling test, and we just merged a test to check the maximum intent that the system will take. Then we make some modification on our drivers on the test line. We continue working on the show, which is mostly working. We still iron out some small issues. So for the bug status, there are, on this sprint only, there were 28 bugs created. 12 of them are resolved. So the net is 16, I guess. And there's still total remaining bugs in the Jira and unresolved is 82 of them. So some of the newly created bugs are highlighted here, but I'm not going to go into detail. So that's the status of QA.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Mark?
Hey. So IP optical record. Andrea reviewed some of this device provider work, so I probably won't do it again. I guess the only thing to say is next sprint we'll do a bunch of rule providers next to the device provider, and that will give us all the tools we need to control the disaggregated routing. Then there is some activities on hierarchical control. One is link discovery. Ayaka will do a demo if she can get it to work later in the sprint review session. And the other part is bandwidth tracking in the case where you have multiple levels of ONOS to worry about. We have an app that exposes a REST API to do MEF, Metro Ethernet Firm service creation. It's just an app that receives an API call. Nothing happens so far. So that's for next sprint. And then a bunch of random stuff. Yeah, you can read it. That's it.
Great, thank you. On the M court, is it going to be who's going to be providing the update for this?
We don't have a sprint review right now, so I report here. The first is the ONOS relative. The first thing is the ONOS relative. and the second thing, non-ONOS too. But the first thing, like right now, only the PIT gateway has something to do with ONOS. Now we decompose the PIT gateway into 3 pieces. One is a service, the control plane service, the XOS. Another, we need to develop a PIT gateway application about ONOS, and need to write a driver, southbound driver for the OS switch in the ONOS. So at the same time, I also want to report some other things. What happened in the MCOD, but not ONOS. The two main things we finished is the 3GPP integration testing and the architecture design for the ONS for MCOD. This is mainly 2 things we finished. Other things like the infrastructure building, like about 10 servers, 2 RUs, and the Terraform TM500 box. And also we finished the service tutorial from XOS side. We have to finish the tutorial of the switch driver from the ONOS team. So all the developers return their own country and start to develop the services of the application of the drivers. Yes, this is the drivers application that are in progress right now. This is all from the MCOD.
Perfect. Thank you, Pinky.
Thank you.
Who wants to take this one?
I want to take this one.
So Andrew, actually, the first one is just JSON models for the Swagger UI regarding the flow criteria. It's not a complete model, it's just a sample, because modeling the whole thing, since it's not defined and not well defined, it's not static, but it changes depending on which type of values you want to put in. It's impossible to model it all. So it's just an example of some criteria that you can put in.
Yeah, and just to clarify, what Andrea means, it's certainly possible. It's a well-defined model. It's just that the modeling that Swagger provides us with, that's not sufficient to express the model. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Okay, so I will explain the visual part. So since there are so many requests from the community that asking for the REST API for the northbound part, so I implemented the group table REST API, meter table, and the flow objective REST API. So now we can use the REST API to insert, delete, or just view the entry which inserted in both in group table, meter table, and so on. And for the detail, you can just go to the Swagger doc and to refer to how to use this the REST API. And the last part is since we augmented the application a bit, so I added more property to the application REST API. Also, I updated the JSON model. So that's it.
That's great. Thank you. All right, on the documentation side.
Oh yes, me. So we made a new page in the wiki for the southbound protocols, and that contains all. Right now, it only contains netconf and the REST southbound page, but it serves as a single point of access for the southbound protocols, more or less like a user guide. It's under user guide because under there you can, like, one of the sections of the netconf and the REST southbound connect to your own, let's say, netconf device to ONOS, what are the steps, how you provide configuration, how you can interact with it. So that's why it's under user guide. And especially the netconf page, since this protocol got a lot of traction in the last couple of months, it's fairly visited, and it got updated with the new stream and notification part that we just made in the sprint.
Great. And also one thing that's missing here from this page, because I forgot to include it, we finally have documentation, at least architectural level documentation for the device driver subsystem, and we'll be updating it as we continue integrating it more seamlessly with the rest of the core. Also, Simon, you provided some UI documentation for the GUI platform, right?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, on the OpenStack support, who's going to give an update here?
Cleaning up jobs when a VM for router interface icon has been done for OpenstackSwitching, and 2 new applications are added. One is OpenStack node, which bootstraps compute node, and the other is OpenStack routing, which will handle neutron L3 functions. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Janssen. Luca?
Okay, let's see. We finally succeeded to deploy ONOS and SDN IP in Korea, and it's not finished, so it can count as a completed story, but we almost finished to connect it to South America. We finalized the agreements, and now we miss just a patch cord of a couple of feet. Yeah, 2 switches together, so I consider it almost done. ONS proposals, I put it there just because they really took time. The cool thing is that we have proposals not just from us for the deployments, but also from the others that deploy with us, so Gerrit, M-Lite, and Frionet in this case. And then the rest of the stuff was done for the ON.Lab infrastructure. So some internal statistics for David, maintenance for Nagios, and we enabled finally the notifications. So now it makes sense to monitor and receive notifications. Social media integration. Put things in the rack for the open router, the stuff that Mark is doing. We did the VPN with Huawei. The only story missed here is the VPN with Carium. The plan is 2 weeks ago, well, in December, but that never came back, so we're waiting for that.
Okay, great, thank you, Luca. All right, Brian.
Cool. So as was alluded to earlier and mentioned in CST, we have some improvements that we wanted for the next phase of the module owner program. Specifically, we now add a separate label for the module owners to make it easier for code reviewers and contributors to see what the status of their reviews are. We now automatically assign the 2 most specific module owners, and Charles actually discovered a bug where this number continues to grow on every patch set. So he's got 14 module owners now on his patch set. Get that fixed, no problem. Well, the thing is, it puts 2 random ones, but it does it every time you do a new patch set. Oh, so just fewer patch sets would help.
That's the solution.
We also have a new page that summarizes who the module owners are for which parts of the code base. And the other thing is to track bugs like Charles's and others going forward. It seemed like it'd be easier to track in just using the GitHub issues for the project. The other thing is we were routinely hitting the 2K messages that Gerrit was sending per day. Surprise. Which is sort of surprising, but we've upped that to 10K and haven't hit that limit yet. So.
What happened?
Oh, it just stopped sending messages, yeah. So if you were missing emails from code reviews that were getting submitted later in the day, you would have noticed.
Is there a better way than email? Because I just flash all the Gerrit emails.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah. So perhaps it's not a good idea. Maybe not for this meeting to talk about it, but maybe we should think about.
Some people like receiving the emails. Some people like to do a more pull method where they go and look at their own
personal possible to have an RSS feed?
What? I mean, everything's possible, right? It's
yeah, I know, but I'm just we don't talk about here. Yeah. 1,000 emails a day. Are you kidding me?
Well, great, Brian. Thanks. So this is definitely useful.
I mean, if you look at basically any time there's an update to a patch from Jenkins, a code review, or a
least
with
RSS
sent to all the participants.
If there is something that exists that can
You guys are cutting out. Am I the only one who's remote that's cutting out, whose conversation is cutting out?
No, it's cutting out for me also.
Okay. Menlo Park, are you guys there? We cannot hear you. I suspect there must be some problem with audio.
Yeah, I'll try pinging John.
Because it started to cut out a couple of slides ago, but now it's completely out.
Yeah. Oh, you can hear us? No, that's nice.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure what to do. I think the problem must be on the Menlo Park side. That would be my guess.
You can hear us?
Yeah, I can hear now. Now you came through. I suspect there was some connectivity issue with your audio hardware.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a nice way to say Wi-Fi.
No, because just for the fact that we receive the packets from them of the audio, it means that the packets go back and forth, right?
Maybe they just go one way.
I suspect audio equipment failure. Okay, well, we're glad to have you back online. So why don't we just keep moving? Is that all right? Are we done on the Gerrit update?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm not sure whether we have attendees necessary to provide updates for SFC and Yang. Is there anybody there?
Guess not.
I guess not. Yeah. So this is the OP and FE related projects for SFC and also for the northbound modeling of services via Yang that Patrick's and the Huawei team are working on. So given that, I think we can move on to the demos. And so, Jean, are you dialed in? Perfect, you are. So I'm gonna switch you to start presenting. Is that right?
Okay.
Nope.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So yeah, actually, application view. So now, if we go to the application view, now we add the icon for all applications. So you can. So yeah, you can add your own application icon when you develop the application. For example, in IntelliJ, you can put the new application icon like app PNG under the individual application, so that you can display that in the right hand. Also, once you click that, then there's a panel that can show all the details of the application, like big icon and the role of the application and the features that it relies on, all the report application, the permission, and so on. So this part has been kind of finished, but we need to do more kind of code refactoring later on to further enhance the feature and so on. And the another part is I want to present is the augmentation part. So for example, in add device, if we click on, for example, like meter, so then currently, since this device is OpenFlow 1.3, so it just said no meter found. But what we can do then is, for example, assume that we are running OpenFlow 1.0 like devices, for example, then it will immediately just show that the meter is not supported in these kind of devices. So you can also customize your own stuff when a certain device doesn't support something. You can annotate that so that can be visualized in the view part. So that's it. Is application augmentation, that is Yes, this is
the core.
so. This is not application augmentation. This is for augmenting the table model.
Yeah, but the previous application.
Okay, this one.
Everyone has that, or I need to do something to get this?
Just you can use it. Yeah.
Jean, can you attempt to disable the drivers?
Okay. Sorry about that. So another one is dialog part. So once we click one like application, we try to remove that, they will give us some kind of dialog to show that it's just kind of we cannot disable drivers and so on. So, but by looking at this, the users can decide whether just go with this or not. So.
Yeah, because in the past it was really easy to inadvertently hit one of the buttons, and then you might disable the application without any ceremony, and so we did not want that. Great, thank you. So I think we can pass the baton to Ayaka if you're ready to present.
Oh yeah, I'm just having a bit of a technical issue joining the Hangout or the.
Okay. Yeah, you need to join the participants or presenters link.
Yeah, it just redirected me to a error page. Let me just give that a shot.
Brian, do you want to share the link with Ayaka?
I can do that again.
I think I'm here. Next little bit.
There we go. All right.
Turn the camera on.
I switched you to present to everybody.
Okay. Sorry about that technical issue. So what I have right now, hopefully I'll just. Okay.
Green vanilla. Green one. Yeah.
Not the screenshot. I want the desktop itself. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
So right now this is the ONOS GUI on my Metro ONOS cluster. These are big switches. So these are actually two separate cluster instances. So if I were to say open up the GUI for those, you'll just see a single underlying OBS right now at this moment. This was just for debugging purposes, but I can technically have much more complicated topologies. So right now, I don't have any kind of link discovery enabled on either end. Actually, no, I do, but I just haven't had added the between the big switches 1 and 2 in the Metro cluster. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that once I get back to the graph. Hopefully this will work. Sometimes it's still a bit finicky. Okay, so there's one installed. So this should, in theory, let the LOD piece pass through. So now you see that the link is up. And if you were to look at the link, it's marked virtual. It's between big switches 1 and 2, bidirectional. So now if I were to say add a point intents to either of the other COs, I should be able to ping across the 2 hosts that I had set up in the mainnet side. So these are the hosts, HTD 1.3 and 2.3. So this is one side. I still shouldn't be able to ping between either side because that's just one part of the intent, which was set up on this guy over here. So if I were to do the same thing on this side as well, on Big Switch 2, I should get something through. Okay, so
I think on the first big switch, the intent that you installed,
was
it correct?
Was it a loop? Let me just double check.
Yeah, it seemed to have the same MAC addresses.
Okay. So maybe I can right. Let me just try that again. Okay,
There we go. Nice.
I don't see anything.
It's frozen.
It's frozen.
I think.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go.
right.
Yeah, so it's passing through now. But okay, at least I didn't have to restart all the.
Uh-oh, we lost you again.
But yeah, that was pretty much all I had to show. Just getting pings across 3 different domains, across 3 different clusters, with the Metro.
That's great. So basically, you can provision intents on either the control domain or even in a transport control domain, the sort of the supervisory one. Very nice.
Unfortunately, we don't still have the which information we need to pass to where in order to show the flows and related paths, or the oblique. So it still kind of just shows up as flagging it.
I see. I see. Nice. Well, thank you. Is there any other demos that maybe were not put on a agenda? All right. Well, if not, I think we can call the sprint done. I'm going to close the Jira sprint and open a second one so that people can start planning before Monday, if you want. And we'll see everybody on Monday afternoon for the Sprint 2 planning. All right? Have a great weekend. And thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.